This last weekend in Maryland was Glitch 8.5 Konami Code, a major with around 500 entrants and a bunch of top players. Tweak wasn't present at the event, which meant going in, the primary story was that Leo was going to continue to reign supreme and everybody else would just try their best. There was other stuff going on, of course. ESAM and Light were making their post-quarantine debuts, Charlie and Kola in the top 8 were trying to prove that they earned that spot, and a gaggle of hidden bosses and up-and-comers looking to make a name for themselves. But at the end of the day, that threat of Leo loomed over everyone's heads. But unbeknownst to us, an even bigger threat loomed over Leo's head.
Battlefield and Pokemon Stadium 2 have...
Wait, this might be enough? He has powered up Dragon! That's it! You didn't DI that properly, your stock is gone!
Really big punishes on revenges, right?
Mm-hmm.
So. Oh my goodness, no double jump?
You're
oh
gone.
my... Yeah.
And there we go, we're gonna have to try and dance around this just a little bit more.
Oh, no way!
This tournament, like I said, is held in Maryland, which meant that looking at Top 64, it's dominated mostly by MDVA as well as Tri-State. If there's any players in Top 64 whose names you don't recognize, they were probably hidden bosses from one of these two regions. The Midwest, Mexico, New England, and Philly also take up some relevant portions. However, by Top 32, Tri-State overtakes MDVA, Mexico and New England stay almost the exact same, and Midwest and Philly both have. The takeaway here is that given that it's an MDVA tournament, MDVA presence was rampant, and that Tri-State continues to be one of the strongest regions in the United States. Additionally, New England and Mexico also keep sending their top reps to all majors. Speaking of Mexico, Chag finally had an incredible run into top 8, with wins over Ko-Fi, Dark Wizzy, Ling Ling, and Maister, outdoing his projected run by 4 whole placements. This gives him the title of player to outplace their seed by the most outside of top 8, tied with Bryce and Pink Cage. Both from Tri-State, Bryce is a King Dedede player who beat Dill, Let It Rain, Pharaoh, and the Turtle King to beat his 65th seed to make it up to 17th, and Pink Cage is a Mr. Game & Watch player who beat Jackal and Kripuba to end his run at 33rd, beating his projected placement of 129th. Two solid and unexpected runs from these players who will hopefully continue to pop off in the future. And on the other end of things, there was a few players who drastically underperformed for their standards. Jackal and DM, both seeded for 25th, got out at 97th, again a difference of 4 placements. Jackal lost to Pink Cage, that Game & Watch player from a second ago, and Click, while DM lost to Guerrero 18 and the Turtle King. All 4 of those players ended up having impressive runs in the top 64 and had to stomp on these two heads to get there. But both of those runs pale in comparison to Sandstorm's run this weekend. If you don't know, Sandstorm is a pretty solid player with a lot of major attendance pre-quarantine and almost always placing somewhere in top 64. He plays the Shotos and friends as well as being a top-level Brawlhalla player. But this weekend he went 1-2, placing 193rd. And unlike Jackal and DM, who lost to players who went on to have great runs, the players he lost to dropped out of bracket almost immediately after. An extremely rough run, and one that I only feel comfortable talking about like this because Sandstorm seems to be handling it extremely well, but I'm sure we'll see him back in top shape soon. But these players not matching their seeds don't even begin to cover the upsets that took place this weekend. If, like me, you were busy Saturday and thought that maybe you just watch a few pool sets and tune in on Sunday, the upsets drew you in almost instantly. In less than an hour after going live, the 2 biggest upsets of the tournament took place. The first being Non beating Leon. Non has been on the Ohio PR for a long time. He previously made Pichu and Lucina and is now settled on Joker, and he beat Leon to make it out of pools 2-1. On the other hand, Bacon is a Dr. Mario player from MDVA. As far as I can tell, he's never been on the PR there, but he's still been known as a top doc rep for a while, and he beat Charlie the King, a top 8 seed for this event, to make it out of pools, making for the single biggest upset of the entire bracket, bar none, an upset factor of 8. And then, in incredibly poetic fashion, both of these sets had a run back, winners making it into top 32, and Leon and Charlie both took back their crowns and won. That doesn't take away from the fact that Non and Bacon both had great runs and great upsets this weekend. Speaking of Non and his Joker, let's look at character representation for this event. Compared to Riptide a few weeks ago, this looks like a much more standard showing of top tiers. Rob takes the lead again with 5 reps, which isn't as much as other events and definitely isn't as much as was projected, due to some notable Rob players falling before top 64. Joker, Wolf, and ZSS all had 4 reps, showing that these top tiers still have a stable place in the meta. The 3 reps territory is where we start getting a little bit weird with characters like Incineroar and King Dedede, but we also have Falco and Game & Watch on the more normal end of things. And that standard character representation extends to the players as well. For all the crazy MDVA and Tri-State reps going on crazy runs and upsets this weekend, the top of bracket looks pretty standard for the most part. While Leon and Dark Wizzy may be busted out a little earlier than we'd expect out at 25th, everything else makes a lot of sense. Pink Fresh proved that he's not just a local terror, and he made his run up to 17th, almost taking a set off of MK Leo. Ned had a better performance than at Riptide, making it up with 17th as well. Bryce, as we mentioned earlier, also made it up to 17th, along with Syrup and Bonk maybe being a surprise here for some. Bonk doing it off the back back of an upset over Wadi, who still ended up placing 9th. Dabuz's run ended at 13th, a good run that he unfortunately does not feel happy with at all, tweeting that he still feels behind the curve and is really struggling to find his place again post-quarantine. On the other hand, Yoda Cage has to be elated to place at 13th. This Philly Bowser Jr. player taking sets off of Ling Ling, Zamba, and ZD. Out just shy of top 8 are Wadi, as we already mentioned, Charlie the King off of a crazy loser's run after his upset from Bacon, Larry Lur just not clutching out a set against Cosmos, and Tilde getting gatekept by Mexico again. But now, let's dig into this top 8. Continuing the trend, this is a pretty common top 8 with all of the hard hitters you'd expect to see. The only 2 players not seeded to get here were Chag, as we talked about, who were seeded for 17th, and Cosmos, who was seeded for 9th and got out here at 7th. With wins over Yoda Cage and Dabuz, Cosmos made it up to his top 8 qualifier in winner's side, where he then lost to Light, who's always been a bit of a demon for him. Unfortunately, after beating Larry to make it into top 8, he lost to Leo, who was flying through losers. Cosmos was once again the main Aegis rep at Glitch, but this time he showed them much better than his 49th at Riptide and his 13th at Summit. Can't wait to see more from Cosmos in the future as he re-rises up through the ranks. Our other 7th place player is Mars, the 3rd seed of the event, underplacing his seed not quite as bad as Riptide, but still not where he wants to be. With wins over Suarez, Sharp, and Wadi, Mars had a super solid run, but lost in the Summit run back with Kola that previously ended in an SD. And then for the first time ever lost to Maister. This was their first real set post-quarantine, or maybe more importantly, post-ZSS nerfs. After the loss, Mars was tweeting that the changes to his character made his options feel less safe and capable of dealing with Game & Watch, and given his prior 4-0 set count over Maister, I'm at least somewhat inclined to believe him. Whether he'll adapt to this matchup or train up one of his gaggle of secondaries, we'll just have to wait and see, but for now, Mars is a super solid showing that still sits a bit below his standards. At 5th, we finally return to Chag. After just barely not getting voted into Summit, 13th at Smash World Tour, and 49th at Riptide, Chag finally gets the run that he's been digging for. And not off a lucky bracket or anything either. The set that changed the tides for him was a win over Maister, who he's had a bit of a back and forth set count with, but generally comes out losing. That put him in top 8 winner's side, where he lost to Kola, and then dropped down to losers to be the next victim in Leo's path. Regardless, an excellent run for the top Palu player, finally showing what he's got offline at a major level, and I'm sure we'll get used to seeing him in the coming months. Also out at 5th was Light. It was a bit of a lucky run considering that there was a Bowser Jr. in top 16 that could have destroyed Light's career for the second time, but with wins over Zamba, Ned, and Cosmos, he also made top 8 on winner's side. Unfortunately, he then had to play his longtime rival ESAM, who was playing on fire this weekend, and lost the set. He then dropped to losers to play a close Game 5 set with Maister, ending his run at 5th, losing to 2 of his worst matchups. Still, after his absence from online in his infamous MSM run, Light's return to offline majors was a powerful one that you can't really be upset with. And given that we've talked about him for 3 out of the 4 top 8 sets so far, we're finally getting to Maister. 2nd seed at this event, but out at 4th, he had a solid run through Atomisk and Tilde before getting sent to losers, where he then beat Charlie as well as Mars and Light in top 8. He then once again met with Leo to fight for 4th place. An unfortunate end for Maister given their incredibly skewed head-to-head, but for the first time, Maister almost won in this incredibly close Game 5 set. While I'm sure it can be a little bit sad to lose to 2 fellow Mexican players for another bracket, Maister can still walk away proud knowing that he's getting really close to overcoming one of his biggest roadblocks. And now, breaking into top 3, we have Kola, with an electrifying run, proving that Riptide was an exception, not the rule, and that he deserves these top 8 seeds. On his path to winners finals, he beat Zenoto, Larry Lur, Mars, and Chag. He then faced off against ESAM in a super close Game 5 set, and then he was sent down to losers to fight Leo, and almost sent him home outside of top 2 for the first time in 2.5 years. Unfortunately, it just wasn't meant to be, and Kola still gets to go home having proven himself to anyone still doubting him and making Moist proud. Which leaves us for a bit of an unexpected top 2. Of course, Leo is here, but you might have noticed that we've been talking about him from a loser side of top 8. And not just for a few matches, but the entirety of it. It was no tweak, Mars on the other side of bracket, and Samsora gone from the scene. It would seem that this shouldn't be possible. It would take somebody godlike. After beating Pink Fresh in that close Game 5 set, he met up with ESAM for his top 8 qualifier. ESAM was fresh off of beating Pink Cage and Bonk, and was making his offline major debut in his first offline bracket with Pikachu since June, and yet ESAM wiped the floor with Leo's Bylor. Maybe this shouldn't be as unexpected as I'm making it out to be. ESAM previously had a 2-2 record with Leo. His 2 wins were against Leo's Marth and Lucina, and the 2 losses to his Joker, which is why Leo decided not to switch to Aegis, but to Joker, the safe counterpick that had worked against ESAM before. But it's also what makes it surprising when this happened.
To take the stock from ESAM before they do it? It does! ESAM defeats MK Leo!
And so, ESAM moved on to winner's side, and he fought against Light and Kola in 2 tight Game 5 sets, while Leo charged through losers against Tilde, Cosmos, Chag, Maister, and Kola to get his run back on ESAM, this time starting Joker from Game 1. And the set stayed surprisingly even. It's been a while since we've seen Leo like this, in a lot of ways. We haven't seen him put everything on the line with Joker, not since Genesis, and we haven't seen him in such a balanced grand finals, not with how he washed Tweak at Riptide, or got washed by him at Summit, or even going as far back as how he washed Maister at Frostbite, but got washed by Mars at Genesis. For the first time in a really long time, Leo looked to be on even footing with his opponent. Leo takes game 1, ESAM takes games 2 and 3, but that's alright. Leo's always been about the download, and he's shaping up to take this 2 in game 5. If you're an ESAM fan, this is the scariest part. Leo learns as the set goes on, and if he takes this to a game 5, there's a good chance he gets the reset, and ESAM loses all the progress he made. And if you're ESAM himself in this game 5, you realize that you're far behind, and you hope that you can take at least 1 stock.
And let me just try to get him to 1 stock, and I'll feel pretty good about it.
And you do. And so you feel satisfied, and you play the game out, and then all the time you spent over quarantine, labbing combos, and practicing execution, it all pays off in this combo that made the entire tournament.
I mean, Pikachu, these low percents, you already know
Yeah.
the combo fiend that ESAM is, and he is stacking up that damage.
Oh my God!
Right now.
No way!
Oh my God, he did it!
ESAM blitz glitch! ESAM blitz glitch!
And ESAM double eliminates Leo. Both sets only going to game 4, and he wins Glitch. Absolute congratulations to ESAM, proving that Pikachu is busted, he is godlike, and that Glitch is his home. ESAM has always had a little bit of a consistency problem, so whether this is his new peak or his new standard is yet to be seen. But whatever the case may be, I cannot wait to see him at future tournaments. Next week at Low Tide City, we'll be seeing Leo and Tweak and get a return to their classic rivalry, as well as the other top players we expect at this point, like Mars, Maister, Dabuz, and Kola. But for now, Glitch has been a super exciting event. Shoutouts to Gimmer, Apostle, Tantalus, House of 3K, and all the rest of the Xanadu staff and volunteers that made this event run so smoothly and have such a sick and unique identity to it. Thanks for all the support in the last video. It made me feel all the more excited to make this one. Please leave a comment with what players you had the most fun watching this weekend. I really loved Suarez. I haven't really paid attention to him before, but the way he was so patient and reactionary to his opponents was really interesting to see. Also tell me what rivalries and storylines that you want to see develop and what I've been missing out on in these videos. My name has been Ankle, thank you for watching, and this has been the stats and storylines of Glitch 8.5 Konami Code.